In speaking with hundreds of people who have retired, what I've found is there's some patterns in the things that catch people off guard, the unexpected things they feel when they retire. In today's video, I'm gonna walk you through the 5 things that you need to expect when you retire so you can plan for them and make the most of it. Hey everyone, I'm James Canole, founder of Root Financial, and I'm here to teach you how to get the most out of life with your money. Now we all build up, whether consciously or subconsciously, some picture of what we think retirement will look like. This is natural. We spend far too many hours and years and decades in the workplace for us not to think about what retirement will look like. Now, if we don't think through it intentionally and actually have a very clear picture of what that transition looks like, we might build up some thoughts, while true, may not paint the whole picture. For example, a lot of people think that retirement's gonna be all about golfing and traveling and time with family and friends, and while those are all very true things, there's some other aspects of it too. So in today's video, I'm gonna walk you through the 5 things that you need to expect going into retirement so that you can start to unfold a plan to address those things. Now, a couple are financial, but most are non-financial, so let's jump in and see what they look like. Number 1 is financial planning doesn't end. So often in our working years, what are we planning for? What are we investing for? What are we looking towards? Well, retirement is probably the biggest one for most people. This is why we fund 401ks. This is why we look at Roth IRAs. This is why we build up our portfolio so that one day that portfolio is big enough for us to now live on. Well, we think of this as if retirement's the finish line. And we save and we invest and we defer and we plan to get to this finish line. And then people retire. And what they notice is, oh my goodness, now there's a whole different set of planning challenges that I need to address. They're much different than the working years, but the planning never stops. What's gonna be your withdrawal strategy each year? How's that gonna change as markets are up or down? How are you gonna fund those large one-time expenses, whether it's a car purchase or an RV purchase or a long-term care type event? All of these things are going to continue even after you retire, and you need to make sure you have a plan in place to address all the contingencies. It's no longer as simple as saying, okay, I'll just keep working a little bit longer to create that income. Or I have the buffer of being comfortably employed and I can use this to fund whatever I need to. Well, in retirement, it's up to your Social Security or your portfolio or your other income sources, and you really need to make sure you're handling your finances in a different way after retirement than you are before retirement. So for most people, sometimes it's unexpected. If I can just get there, everything will be okay. Well, getting there is a really big challenge, and if you can do so, congratulations, but the planning doesn't stop. So make sure that you have a plan not just to retirement, but through retirement. Number 2, the second thing to expect in retirement is market downturns feel different. One thing I find so often is people will come to us at Root and they'll work with myself or my team of advisors, and we'll just ask them the question. We'll say, when the market's going up and going down, how do you feel? Specifically when it's going down, when the market's dropped 20, 30, 40%, what do you do as an investor? Now, oftentimes the people we're talking to, they're maybe 2-3 years out from retirement. So they're still in their working years. And they'll think back. They'll think back to 2020 during the COVID downturn. They'll think back to 2008 during the mortgage meltdown. And they'll say, you know what, I remember those times. And I remember it not being very fun, but we have a long-term perspective. So we really just didn't check our statements and we let it all pass. Wonderful. But I'm here to tell you that's going to feel different when you're retired. There's a sense of going through this downturn in the market when you're still working that, okay, I still have my income, I can just see this through. Well, when you're retired and that happens, even if you've got a good plan in place, it still just feels different. It feels scarier. You no longer feel like you have the buffer of income and time on your side to be able to see those downturns through. So that's why it's crucial to, number 1, have a plan in place. How do you balance your portfolio in a way where you have conservative investments that aren't impacted as much by the market? And you have growth investments that will help you to keep up with inflation over time. So yes, have the financial strategy in place, that's very important. But number 2, also have the expectation that it's just gonna feel different. It's gonna feel different because you're no longer saving into the market. It's gonna feel different because you're now living on your portfolio as opposed to saving to your portfolio. And it's gonna feel different because you have more time, quite frankly, to look at your account balances, to monitor what's going on. So as you go through that, the ups and downs in retirement won't be any different than the ups and downs before retirement, but the feeling will change. So prepare yourself for that. Understand that it is crucial to get your retirement portfolio in order, but it's also crucial to set proper expectations. That those ups and downs won't ever end, but you need to know they're coming and you need to recognize how it will feel ahead of time so you can make the most of it in the midst of it. So those first two things to expect, that has to do with your financials and your portfolio and your investments. The biggest things, though, that people need to expect going into retirement have nothing to do with finances. The third thing I tell people to expect is you will still feel busy. One thing I hear so frequently from retired clients is they'll say, I don't know how I ever had the time to work before. Between taking care of grandchildren or running errands or taking care of my honey-do list, the list of things to do is endless. You're never going to really feel like you just have all the time in the world on your side. So expect to still feel busy. Now there's something called Parkinson's Law, and Parkinson's Law says work expands to the time allotted to it. So if you have a full day and you say, you know what, I'm gonna pull weeds today, I'm gonna mow the lawn today. Well, if you don't have a structure for when you're gonna do that, well, something's gonna come up. You're gonna get a text message from friend or family and go help them out with something else. Then you're gonna turn on the TV and something's gonna catch your attention. That's gonna take your attention for a couple hours. Then you're gonna open your phone and you're gonna see some news article that leads you down a rabbit trail. Then something else is gonna happen and something else happens, and before you know it, the sun's going down and you realize, I never got around to mowing the lawn or pulling the weeds. So this is why it's so important to still have structure in your day. I was part of a wonderful Toastmasters club here in San Diego. And what I loved about it was when I joined it, I expected it to be a lot of people who are looking to grow their career, to grow their ability to speak publicly, to grow their communication style. A lot of it was people who were retired. And it was people who loved having the structure of 7:30 in the morning, every Wednesday morning, I'm gonna start my day by doing something that challenges me, something that grows me. And in doing that, they were maintaining the structure in their day. You start your day doing something challenging, but also something fun. Then you schedule something else, then you schedule something else. And the point isn't to kill ourselves with scheduling and being busy. The point is to be intentional about what you're busy with. Because if you're not, your schedule will just become naturally busy, but maybe not with the things you'd like to be busy with. So keep in mind, you will not stop feeling busy even once you retire, and that's a good expectation to have going into retirement. The fourth thing I tell people to expect is you may struggle with your identity. Whether we like it or not, our work often becomes a big part of our identity. Again, if you've done something for 20, 30, 40 plus years, it's very difficult just to leave that and not feel like some piece of your identity has been left behind. When so much of our waking hours have been committed to something, to doing something, to growing something, to figuring something out, you can't just leave that behind and do so very easily. So as you look at this, explore, what do you want your identity to look like? Is it your identity as a grandparent? Is it your identity as a friend? Is it your identity as someone who gives back? Is it your identity as a worker and starting something? But whether we like it or not, like I said, you may struggle with identity, and identifying things that you want to be doing and that you want to be remembered for and that you want to spend your time doing. Those are the things that you should intentionally devote your time, your energy, your talents to, so that you can create something new. It's in a way about leaving your old self behind and creating a new version of yourself. But if you're not intentional about that, you may struggle along the way. And then the fifth thing to expect going into retirement is there's no more supposed-tos. What do I mean by that? Well, from a very young age, we always know what we're supposed to do next. Get good grades in high school because then you're supposed to go to college. Get good grades in college because then you're supposed to get a good entry-level position. Do well in that entry-level position because then you're supposed to get promoted. Then you're supposed to buy a home. Then you're supposed to start a family. Then you're supposed to keep getting promoted. And then one day you retire and there's no more supposed to do's. You have a blank canvas. And with that blank canvas, you can spend it doing things that you are intentional about, or you can spend it being reactive and doing whatever comes up, which is not the way to go. So as you think about this, the scary thing, but also the beautiful thing about retirement is it's yours to create in whatever manner you want to create it. If you want to travel and play golf and do all kinds of fun things, wonderful. How do you create that? If you want to volunteer and give back and be part of your community, wonderful. How do you create that? If you just want to spend time with your spouse or with your family or with friends, these are all wonderful things, but there's no more supposed tos. There's no more almost trajectory of what you're going to be doing. It's yours to create. So make sure you're spending some intentional time ahead of retirement. It doesn't have to be perfect, but getting some general sense of what is it that I want to do? Because if I'm not intentional about this, I will be pulled into the routine. I'll be pulled into the busyness, like I said, that just comes even with retiring. So if you can start to expect these things aren't designed to scare you. They're not meant to scare you away from retiring. It's meant to show you the reality of retirement. After speaking with hundreds of people who've gone through this transition, these are some of the things they wish they knew to expect. If you knew to expect that planning never really stops, if you know to expect that market downturns will feel different, if you know to expect that you're still gonna feel busy, that there's no more supposed-tos, that you may struggle with your identity, well, then you can get ahead of it. Then you can start planning both financially and non-financially to make your retirement the retirement you dream about. And if you do all these things, there's no doubt you're gonna have a really wonderful retirement. Now, a big part of this is predicated on, do you have enough to actually retire? If you're wondering, do I have enough? How do I know when I have enough? Be sure to check out this video above so you can find out. Once again, I'm James Knoll, founder of Root Financial. And if you're interested in seeing how we help our clients at Root Financial get the most out of life with their money, be sure to visit us at www.rootfinancialpartners.com.